Hello, my name is Daniel Nenny, and I'm the founder of SemiWiki.com, the open forum for semiconductor professionals. Since going online in 2011, SemiWiki.com has experienced more than 4 million users. If you're not a member of the SemiWiki community, please register as my guest. I hope to see you there. Today's webinar is titled A Review of New In Situ Metrology for Advanced Semiconductor Processes in partnership with Atonarp. The speaker today is Saïd Boumsellek, Senior Director of Instrumentation and Applications. Saïd has taken on the role of leading the development of instrumentation and applications of mass spectrometry products. Prior to Atonarp, Saïd served as the Director of Advanced Technology at L3 Security Detection Systems, where he led the R&D team. Saïd holds a PhD in physics, has a long track record in instrument development, and deep domain expertise in the chemical analysis industry. He has held many professional roles, including member of technical staff at Caltech's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, developing miniature charge particle analyzers for planetary exploration. Saïd has prepared over 100 research proposals and secured more than $15 million in R&D funding from various U.S. government agencies. He authored over 32 publications in peer-reviewed journals and 40-plus patents in the areas of ionization, sources, and chemical analysis technologies. Please submit questions in the questions box and we will respond via email after the webinar. A link to the replay will be sent for you to share with colleagues. Okay, let's get started. Over to you, Saïd.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you again for the opportunity to showcase our newly released ASTON product line. The title of my presentation today is Introducing ASTON Semiconductor Solutions. A quick slide to introduce our company. Atonarp is a global leader in molecular diagnostics. We have two divisions, AMS and AOS. AOS utilizes Raman spectroscopy, or more accurately, a nonlinear variant called coherent anti-Stokes Raman spectroscopy, to address applications in the healthcare markets. Today, I will focus solely on the AMS, which utilizes advanced mass spectrometry for process control in a wide range of industrial applications, including pharma, petro, and semi. Today, though, we will concentrate on the semi applications. We are a technology-driven company. Over 115 patents have been filed for protection worldwide. 64 have been issued as of July 2021. The company is headquartered in Japan with offices and laboratories in Tokyo, Bangalore, India, Fremont, California, and our newly opened offices and laboratories in Scottsdale, Arizona. Atonarp is led by our CEO, Prakash Murthy, who is based in Tokyo, Japan. The company has raised over $111 million in Series A through D. $50 million Series D closed in May of this year. Some of the strategic and financial investors include companies in both Japan and the US, Celesta SoftBank Investment, INCJ, Furukawa Electric, to name a few. So let's talk about some of the metrology challenges in semiconductor processes from the chemical analysis standpoint. Obviously, with the continuous shrinkage of process nodes, there's growing need for more reliable, dependable in-situ metrology. According to experts, we may be entering the golden age of metrology as time-based control is increasingly inadequate to keep up with the tighter tolerances of more and more complex and intensive processes. Existing methods for monitoring and control of process chemistries are simply ineffective. First, let's talk about RGAs. Conventional residual gas analyzers cannot withstand neither the corrosiveness of process gases such as fluorine and chlorine, nor the excessive particle deposition in TIOS and silane processes, for example. These have drastic effects on sensor lifetime, which limits their deployment or potential deployment on production tools. Second, OES. Optical emission spectroscopy devices have been used successfully for etch and point detection in large node processes. They, however, lack the sensitivity required for small open area percentages and or high aspect ratio processes, such as the ones used in 3D structures. Furthermore, processes increasingly use pulsed plasma, dim or remote plasma for radical etching, for instance, preventing OES from providing dynamic chemistry information, namely in the consumption of reactants and the onset of byproducts near the wafer. While ASTON is an in-situ device, OES, however, requires an access window on the chamber that must remain clean to obtain stable signals of sufficient intensity, not to mention that OES does not produce quantitative data. In sum, current metrology solutions have limited observability and control of process, lack the precision required for tighter process drift tolerances, do not meet the stability and repeatability requirements for adoption on production tools. Currently, the semi market is poised for about 19.7% growth in 2021. Three driving forces behind such growth. Number one, the global recovery and positive outlook has led to chip shortages worldwide. Number two, semi companies are racing to embrace digital technologies faster than ever. And number three, wireless, 5G, IoT, AI, and automotive industries are and will be driving significant growth over the next few years. So through months of interactions with both OEM and end user process engineers, Atonarp has designed and developed ASTON, a platform built to meet performance requirements intended for deployment on production tools. Some of the key benefits include ASTON is a versatile instrument intended for real-time monitoring and control of various process cycles. It is robust, single instrument capable of replacing multiple legacy devices. It is fast, sensitive, and reliable for full integration into high-volume manufacturing tools. It is armed with powerful data analytics for automated and autonomous process control. Some of the use cases include CVD ALD, such as oxide nitride process used in 3D NANDs, low open area percentage and high aspect ratio endpoint detection in dielectric, polysilicon, and metal etch, such as contacts and vias, chamber fingerprinting and matching, where baseline and process POR are required to be within sub 1% for copy exact initiatives. ASTON can be connected to the process chamber via two sample inlets. The top one is for both plasma ionization and electron impact ionization modes, while the bottom one is for electron impact ionization mode only. Shown on the front panel are, in addition to a universal AC power inlet, are connections including NW16 flange for connecting the roughing pump, Ethernet communication ports, RS-232 DB9 ports for peripherals such as an optional sample inlet module, micro USB ports for software upgrades and debug, and finally status LEDs. The dimensions of ASTON are approximately 400 by 300 by 350. With such compact size, ASTON can be easily installed on chamber as well as below the chamber on the roughing pump line. When we remove the cover, you can see the vacuum chamber, a dual split flow turbomolecular pump, the mass spec controller, a pressure transducer for monitoring the pressure inside the mass spec chamber, a PLC module at the bottom, a plasma RF power supply, and finally a 24-volt supply for the entire instrument. Let's now talk about the two enabling technologies developed for ASTON, namely the microplasma ionizer and the hyperquad sensor. Electron impact ionization using hot filaments has been widely used in conventional RGAs. The high rate of reactivity of the hot filaments with the ambient gases, especially corrosive gases such as fluorine and chlorine, drastically limits their lifetime due to poisoning effects. ASTON actually features a dual ionization scheme: standard electron impact for chamber baselining and fingerprinting at low pressures, and a patented microplasma ionizer for process pressures. ASTON's microplasma ion source was developed to match the process tool PM cycles of over 500 RF hours. The microplasma offers a self-cleaning feature that takes advantage of the process cleaning gases such as NF3 to clean itself. Self-cleaning is programmed to occur concurrently with process chamber clean cycles at user settable frequencies. The second enabling technology is the hyperquad. Quadrupoles have been the workhorse of mass filters in conventional RGAs. They consist of 4 cylindrical rods driven by high voltages at radio frequencies. Cylindrical rods are cheaper to make but produce only an approximate quadrupole field required for mass discharge filtering. For ASTON, we have developed a mass filter using hyperbolic electrodes, hence the name hyperquad, to achieve superior sensitivity and resolution. Starting with cylindrical rods, we then cut the hyperbolic shape at low micrometer accuracy using wire EDM technology. A plot of sensitivity versus resolving power for both cylindrical and hyperbolic rods from the Dawson reference shows that for cylindrical rods, a severe penalty represented by a steep drop in sensitivity is shown when increasing the resolution slightly. While with hyperbolic rods, the sensitivity does not decrease as drastically, hence providing an advantage in both sensitivity and resolution. With the hyperquad, we're able to achieve unit mass resolution as shown at mass 219 using the standard PFTDA. Much narrower peaks are obtained, obviously, at lower masses, namely 131 and 69. The next slide shows a block diagram of the ionization and analytical stages of ASTON. The vacuum chamber is pumped by a dual inlet or split flow turbomolecular pump, one inlet for electron impact ionization and one inlet for plasma mode. The inlet flows are 1 and 10 SCCM respectively. Microplasma chamber, powered by an external RF coil, is followed by a network of electrostatic lenses and an energy filter to focus the ion beam and reduce its energy distribution. Ions then enter the low pressure chamber of the hyperquad, which is outfitted with 2 filaments. The filaments are either tungsten or yttria-coated iridium, depending on the chemical nature of the ambient gases. The mass filter is driven by 3.5 megahertz RF supply, covering a mass range between 1 and 300 AMU. Downstream of the mass filter is a dual Faraday cup secondary electron multiplier detector with a total dynamic range of 9 decades for low parts per billion limit of detection. Dwell times down to 1 milliseconds are achievable for individual species. Upstream of ASTON is an optional flow regulator called AVC, or Advanced Vacuum Controller. It consists of a fast responding ALD valve and 2 pressure transducers on either side. On this slide, we show the 3 modes of operation of ASTON. EI mode on the right, where the sample is injected directly into the hyperquad chamber. This mode is intended for mass filter calibration, secondary electron multiplier gain calibration, process chamber baselining, and fingerprinting. Plasma mode on the left. In this mode, the filaments are off and ions produced in the plasma chamber are energy filtered and transported into the mass filter. This mode is intended for process monitoring and operates at higher pressures. The self-cleaning mode in the center, where the plasma operates at higher RF power, the cleaning is performed both chemically using SiFX ions, for instance, to remove silicon deposits, and also using fast fluorine ions to strip off any deposits on chamber walls as well as on sensor electrodes. So what we have in ASTON is indeed a versatile platform capable of addressing several points in the chip manufacturing industry, including in EUV, where keeping the optics and photomask clean from debris and contaminants is critical to maintaining a high laser conversion efficiency. In etch, the point points are low open area percentage, under 1%, even lower than that, high aspect ratio, over 100:1, endpoint detection in dielectric, polysilicon, and metal etch, especially for small interconnects such as contacts and vias. In CVD ALD, ensuring film uniformity in 3D structures through endpointing on layer by layer deposition transitions. Other pain points include chamber matching, which include chamber clean, endpoint detection, baselining, and fingerprinting with an accuracy at lower than 1%. And then applications in the sub-fab, including dry pump monitoring and protection, and abatement system control. One last point here is that the end goal for high throughput is autonomous process control by building digital models of the process using machine learning-based algorithms from multiple chambers and tools. And Atonarp is definitely leading such effort in the industry. Propelled by 3D structures, the increase in depth and etch uses most definitely drives opportunity and growth. The compounded annual growth rate for deposition is 13.5% through 2027. This represents about $40 billion in the US, according to the February edition of Research and Markets. In etch, it is 13.6% through 2024. The US accounts for about $16 billion, according to the May edition of 360 Research Reports. Some of the advanced processes in both memory and logic include SADP, or self-aligned patterning for etch and deposition, LELE, which alternates litho and etch, 3D NAND, where up to 178 oxide nitride layers are stacked, such as in the Sonos process. On the logic side, next generation transistors use gate-all-around with silicon germanium deposition and selective etch. In the next set of slides, I will present various use cases where I either present data and or highlight the value proposition from successful deployments of ASTON. To showcase ASTON's versatility, I have chosen a typical 3D NAND process where ASTON is currently deployed. It is an intensive process where oxide nitride layers are deposited at high speed. Typical film deposition durations are a few seconds. Actual ASTON data with 150 millisecond time resolution for 11 reactants and byproducts are shown at the bottom of this slide. Chamber clean cycles occur after each or a limited set of wafers. The 4 use cases tackled by ASTON during this process are the following. In microplasma mode, ASTON is able to precisely detect the endpoint in both the oxide nitride transition as well as in chamber clean. In EI mode, ASTON is able to baseline the chamber after clean to qualify the tool for processing the next batch of wafers. In EI mode also, ASTON is able to fingerprint and match multiple chambers on the same cluster tool at sub 1% accuracy. Now to some ASTON endpoint detection data obtained on etch tools. As I mentioned earlier, ASTON's HyperQuad is outfitted with a high sensitivity detector, and the data shown on this slide shows just that. The data on the right is obtained on a polysilicon etch process using argon SF6 plasma. Using SiF2 byproducts, as you can see, EPD, endpoint detection, is obtained down to 0.3% open area with excellent signal-to-noise ratio. The data on the far right is obtained on a tungsten etch process using argon CF4 plasma, and using WF5 plus byproducts, endpoint detection is successfully achieved below 0.04% with good signal-to-noise ratio. On this slide, I present chamber clean endpoint detection data as recorded by ASTON. It is rather a straightforward slide. We all know that chamber clean APD is critical to tool throughput. It increases tool availability for process. It prevents yield limiting over etch particulates. ASTON data clearly shows reduced chamber clean time by about 80%, which corresponds to over 40% overall throughput increase, a significant increase. In this slide, I'd like to talk about ALD, ALE process management and ASTON's value proposition. About 80% of ALD processes are thermal, which means OES is ineffective for endpoint detection as there is no plasma. ALD and ALE processes are self-limiting, but not foolproof. These are layer-by-layer intensive processes alternating between precursor gases and purge. ASTON's value proposition lies in the following. With PBB sensitivity at high speed, about 1,000 data points per second, ASTON is able to monitor ALD and ALE processes in real time. ASTON can be used for endpoint detection to optimize purge cycles, which vary from chamber to chamber for increased throughput. With an accuracy of sub 1%, ASTON is able to monitor chamber health over time and process drifts for increased yield. In this slide, I talk about a lithography use case for ASTON, namely EUV machines. A major pain point in tin-based laser-produced plasma EUV machines is the generation of tin debris. Such debris, when deposited on EUV collector mirrors, result in a drastic reduction of its reflectivity. 1 nanometer layer of tin debris can account for 10% reduction. This is usually mitigated using hydrogen flow or hydrogen plasma combined with magnetic field to chemically remove tin in the form of stannane gas, SnH4, then efficiently exhausted from the vacuum chamber and prevent its redeposition. ASTON's value lies in its PBB sensitivity to effectively detect the endpoint via monitoring the efficiency of evacuating all stannane atoms, molecules in that case, from the UV chamber and optimizing the flow of hydrogen. Number 2, monitoring for PBB traces of photoresist and contaminants in the scanner chamber. Finally, one slide on ASTON's use cases in the subfab. I call this slide dry pump and abatement management. Usually multiple chambers are connected to one dry pump and one abatement tool. High concentrations of high K materials, such as hafnium and zirconium, can cause pump failures and loss of batches of tens and hundreds of wafers. ASTON's actionable data would allow for optimized preventative maintenance versus time-based, would predict and prevent catastrophic dry pump failures, optimize nitrogen purge costs, measure and monitor abatement tool DRE, that is the destruction rate efficiency of PFCs and NOxs, produce emission compliance certifications, implement green mode, and reduce the cost of utilities such as power and methane fuel consumption. So in summary, advanced processes are definitely driving market growth for deposition and etch, as 3D structures are now used in flash memory, DRAM, MRAM, and even simple logic devices. In-situ metrology market opportunity exceeds $2 billion per year. The breakdown between the new tool and the retrofit business is about 25,000 and 100,000 tools respectively. ASTON in-situ metrology is versatile, fast, sensitive, and cost-effective way to increase throughput. ASTON is a robust fit-for-purpose solution enabling process control not available with legacy metrology solutions for deposition and etch. Chamber management, sub-fab, including dry pump and abatement management, and maintenance optimizations are all use cases supported by ASTON. Thank you very much, and back to you, Dan.
Great presentation. Thank you, Saïd. Okay, let's start the Q&A. First question. What type of plasma source is the microplasma ionizer?
Thanks, Dan. The plasma ionizer is an ICP, inductively coupled plasma source used in 430 megahertz RF power supply. It is an electrodeless discharge design, which offers stability and lifetime advantages. The plasma is energized using a computer-controlled high-power RF pulses.
Okay, second question. What is the pressure schedule inside the dual vacuum chamber?
Good question. The plasma chamber operates at higher pressures between 100 down to a 10 millitorr to sustain the plasma, while the hyperquad chamber operates at 0.1 millitorr or below.
Okay, another question. Are all ASTON components corrosive resistant?
Yes, indeed. All plasma chamber components
feature corrosive-resistant parts like hastelloy, alumina, and sapphire. The pressure transducer is a cold cathode gauge compatible with corrosive environments. The turbomolecular pump is outfitted with the nitrogen purge port and associated regulator to protect its bearings and extend its lifetime.
Okay. What type of maintenance is required for ASTON?
A filament kit with two options, tungsten and yttria-coated iridium filaments, is available for easy installation within 10 to 15 minutes, and we have instructions available for the user to use for that purpose.
Okay. Can you comment on the user interface and how is ASTON integrated into the process tool data management?
The user interface for ASTON is called Atonarp. It is the primary user interface for control, data acquisition, analysis, and quantitation. It is web browser based, where each ASTON unit has a unique IP address. Now, Atonarp has also a published web service APIs for the user to directly control and acquire data from the tool. Protocol interface options include EtherCAT, Modbus, and CLI. ASTON is interfaced to the process tool via a PLC peripheral module featuring a network of digital and analog inputs and outputs. Process parameter collection is accomplished over EtherCAT to enable correlating chemistry data with the production tool, with the production run data, wafer ID, for instance, as well as providing advanced alarm capabilities that protect the process from out of specification process events.
Oh, great. Final question, is EPD detection required for processes such as ALD and ALE?
Yeah, that is an excellent question, Dan. Many people mistakenly think that self-limiting nature of the processes of the ALD and ALE processes makes them very safe and not prone to process drift and shift. This comes from the belief that these techniques are truly one layer at a time. This is not strictly true. Rather, they have a characteristic removal deposition amount per cycle, which can be a little bit more than a layer or a little bit less. Process shifts, changes in angstrom per cycle can occur due to changes in surface saturation and surface reactivity. Shifts in surface saturation rates can be caused by changes in pumping performance. Shifts in surface reactivity can occur due to wafer temperature changes. Process drift due to surface saturation cause uneven thin film thicknesses.
Okay, that concludes our webinar. Thank you all again for participating in the SemiWiki webinar series, and have a good day.
Thank you, Dan.